Hi, and welcome to my workshop. Today I'm going to show you how I built the Conowingo repurposed boxcar. This is a 24-foot boxcar that got changed into a snack stand. Chris Corse, owner of Conowingo Models, was giving a clinic on how to build this at the MER convention outside of Philadelphia. I went ahead and picked up this kit, and I'm going to build mine pretty much as intended, but I added a number of details and changed a few things. Now this is everything that comes in the kit. Mine had some pieces already painted. So the first thing that I started doing was cutting my strip wood for the bracing and then gluing the bracing in place. Next I glued two of the end walls onto two of the side walls, making sure they were at a right angle. Then I took those two pieces and glued them together into the whole structure, and I let that assembly dry. Next I glued the glass into the windows and door, and I glued them in place in the boxcar. Then I put in a roof support, and I put the roof walk onto the boxcar roof. Then I glued the roof in place, but instead of using the end walks from the kit, I made my own because I wanted more than the three that came with it. And I just cut those out of strip wood and painted and glued them in place. And I started working on the deck that goes in front of the snack bar. And I glued all of the decking onto the supports and then glued the steps together and cut the one board so it would fit up against the boxcar. Now I planned to put this on a little diorama piece, so I cut a piece of gator board and marked out where I wanted stuff. And I had my own ideas about what kind of snack bar it should be, so I made up some signs and downloaded a couple others on the computer. Then after printing them out and using a sponge to rust a couple of them, I went ahead and cut them out. And I mounted my sign on the signboard that came with the kit. I also glued in the smokestack that came with the kit. Then I went ahead and glued the rest of the signs onto the boxcar. I had a 3D printed soda machine that I wanted to use with this, and I found this AK Real Colors pen did a good job at marking the sides of the vending machine so it looked like painted enamel. And then I just used regular acrylic paints to paint the front of the vending machine. And then I started attaching other roof vents and a side vent because they'd be doing a lot of cooking inside this thing. And I used gallery glass around the vents to act as tar to seal it. Then I used my artist pigments to start weathering the entire structure. One of my detail pieces that I wanted to use was an Interaction Hobbies ice machine. And I love his little detail parts. This one is laser cut, and it goes together really nicely. I built up the basic structure and then cut a couple pieces of wire for the handles. And I painted everything white with a white primer. Then I went ahead and started rusting the machine, and I used oils and mineral spirits for this. Then once that was dry, I started applying the decals that come with the kit, and they really make it come alive. So with the rust in the decals, it's a nice little detail. I started working on the base, and I first put down some static grass using my Woodland Signage applicator. And I put down some tall grass first, and then I went over it with some shorter grass to fill it in. One of the products I wanted to try was Mind Mount Models Just Dirt. The dirt outside my house is clay, and you can't really get anything good out of it. And I like the way it came out. And since this was supposed to be alongside a rail trail, I used a little bit of AK asphalt where they would have covered over the old roadbed. Then I started putting my pieces in place and deciding how they'd look best. One of the other details I wanted to put was a gas line, also from Interaction. And I had a few other 3D printed detail parts, and I went ahead and painted them, getting them ready to go in place. And after I glued down my building, I started gluing all of my details in place. And I kept finding little pieces in my detail bin that I'd want to add to it. I had an electric meter, so I added a wire to it, and I primed both it and the ladder. Then I went ahead and glued them in place. And I used a small piece of wood as a telephone pole and added a little insulator to it and ran a line down to my electric meter. And this shows the hot dog menu that I attached to the front near the service window. And there's also a little trash can there with some napkins in it. And after digging a figure out of my box of people, that pretty much completed my repurposed boxcar. This was a simple little kit that only took a couple of days. The longest time was taken in painting all of the detail parts. But it's worth the effort. The more of those you can add, the more interesting it becomes, and the more little pieces you have to draw your eye's attention. And that's one of the things I love to do when building a model. Now that it's done, it's sitting on a shelf alongside another model I built, where I took a Motrac Models depot and turned it into a coffee shop, also sitting alongside a rail trail. I like doing these little kits, and I want to thank you for watching.